Hello everyone, how are you? I'm your English teacher and I hope that everything is good with you and your family. Now today from your book The Midnight Oil, we are going to discuss chapter The Orphan. So this is the story adapted from the great classic Oliver Twist written by Charles Dickens. So the chapter Orphan is an extract taken from a famous novel Oliver Twist which is written by Charles Dickens. The novel follows the journey of the character Oliver Twist. So in this chapter we are going to have a more knowledge about the main character of the story, that is Oliver Twist. Oliver is an orphan since birth. He spends much of his childhood at orphanage with too many children and too little food. So basically Oliver is an orphan and he lives in orphanage with so many children, and there he get a very little food to eat. Now move on to the chapter for better understanding. So before the start of this chapter, I'm going to ask you few questions. Can you imagine a fraction of your life without your parents? Can you understand the situation of those children who are living in orphanage? If not, so let's read the chapter to understand their situation. Chapter number 8, The Orphan. A young mother delivered a boy child with the help of an old woman. No one knew who she was or where she had come from. Delivered means give birth to. So in the beginning of this chapter we come to know that a woman gave a birth to a boy child and no one knows about that woman, from where she has come. As soon as her baby was born, the child mother said in a faint whisper, "Show me my baby and then I will die." After giving the birth to a child, the mother whispered and said, "I just want to have a look at my baby and then after I will die." The child was placed in her arms. She kissed the baby, tears streaming down her cheeks. She shuddered and closed her eyes forever. Streaming means flowing. So what happened? She just took the baby in her arms. She kissed the baby and tears rolled down into her cheeks. She closed her eyes and she died. Every effort was made by the parish doctor to revive her, but in vain. Parish means a church district doctor. Revive means to bring back to life. So what happened? Doctor tried every possible effort to bring back the life of that woman, but it is of no use because she is dead now. What a pity, he said to the old woman. It's all over. If the baby troubles you with its crying, send for me. So now what that doctor said to the old woman, it's very pity, it's very sad because the woman is dead now and you have to keep that baby with you, and if the baby is going to disturb you with his crying, you just give baby back to me. The doctor said these to the old woman. He lifted the dead woman's hand and noticed that it was minus a wedding ring. Minus wedding ring means somewhere that woman is divorced. Somewhere that woman is not having her husband with her. That minus ring is an indication. He lowered his head sadly and left the room. So the doctor was in very sad mood and he left the room. The old woman wrapped the infant in blanket, and it is an orphan, she said to herself, left to the mercies of stranger men and women, since there was no one to care for the child, and she herself was too old to do the needful. So what happened? That woman, she realized that the child is orphan now and she is too old to look after that child. So what she did, she decided to give their child to the orphanage. The caretaker, who was an elderly lady, embezzled all the funds that come in for upkeep and maintenance of the orphans and orphanage. Embezzled means stole money. So what happened? The head of that orphanage, she is a cunning lady. What she did, she just take away all the money that come in the orphanage for the care of the orphan child she did not give that to them. Most of the little child died due to malnutrition or neglect. When questions should the caretaker would deny it. So what happened in that orphanage, many children died because they do not get proper food, they do not get proper care, and whenever questions are asked to that lady, she simply denied. She never gave a response to that questions. When the board members visited the poor house once in a while, the beadle would be sent a day in advance, and on the day of inspection, the children were all neat and clean and given decent food by the member. So, beadle means high church officer. So, what happened? Whenever there is an inspection on that orphanage, that cunning lady, she is very clever. What she did, in day before they get notice that the members are coming to visit the orphanage, and she gave a proper food to the children, she gave a neat and clean dresses to the children to wear to have a good impression on the board members. But basically she is not that kind of woman. She is not giving proper food to the children in the orphanage, and even they are not getting neat and clean dresses to wear on daily basis. Though 9 years of age, Oliver remained short and thin. The beadle Mr. Bumble happened to come and say that Oliver and two other kids had been flogged and locked up. Flogged means to beat. So what happened? Oliver was of 9 year old, but he is still short. He is not of proper height. He is not getting proper height. Why he is not getting proper height? Because he is not getting a proper food to eat in that orphanage. So when beadle came to the orphanage, they saw that the Oliver and other two kings were kept in the lock. They were beaten and they were locked up. So they understand the situation of the children in that orphanage. He said to Mr. Man, the lady in charge, Oliver is 9 years today. The parish has no one idea who his father and mother was. The board was on these grounds want to send him away from the poor house, saying that he is too old to be there. So now what happened, that they said to the lady that orphan is 9 year old now and no one has come yet. No one has said that, no one know about his parents. So we are going to take him away from that orphanage and going to give him to someone else. Oliver had no opinion but to follow Mr. Bumble to another workhouse where a meeting was on. Mr. Bumble spoke sternly to Oliver. Blow to the board. Oliver did as he was told. What's your name? So Mr. Bumble, what happened now? Mr. Bumble took away Oliver with him and he just gave it to another person, to another poor house. So Oliver has nothing to say and he has to obey the orders. So sternly means to weep in a low voice. So Oliver was not happy basically. He don't want to go with Mr. Bumble. What's your name? Asked one of the members. He answered Oliver between sobs. So one of the members from the committee asked Oliver, what's your name? And he cryingly said that, Orphan. I'm Oliver. The board member continued, you know you are an orphan. You were brought up by the parish, weren't you? Then they said to the Oliver, do you know that you don't have your parents and you was brought by a doctor there? So now you can't live there anymore. You are of 9 years now. Yes, sir, replied the boy weeping. You are here to be educated and learn a useful trade. From tomorrow you will wake up early and pick up oak at 6 o'clock. What is oak means? Loose stuff and fiber got from the old trees. So now where the Oliver has been taken, he is also struggling there. He is basically doing a child labor. Now the member said to him that you have to wake up early in the morning. You have to collect old at 6 o'clock. He was led away to a large ward. The little boy was lonelier than ever and sobbed himself to sleep on a rough, hard bed. So he was not getting a proper bed to sleep on. He get a very hard bed there to sleep and he was very sad. He was not happy. He was feeling lonely over there. He wanted to go back to that orphanage. One day, the little orphan gathered together for their usual evening meal, thin soup with an occasional small slice of bread. So, what happened? One day, all the orphan children are gathered and they are getting a very thin food. Thin food here means the soup is not of good quality, and only one slice of bread is given to them to eat, and that is a very low diet for a child. Each of them was handed a ball of this gruel which they gobbled up, and they were always hungry. So gruel means watery food, gobbled means eat quickly. So what happened? They get a very liquefied food to drink, to eat, and they hungrily eat that one. Why they hungrily eat that one? Because they are not getting a proper food to eat. Whenever something is given to them to eat, they eat it hungrily. Often they were overcome with hunger. The kids decided to draw lots on this day, and it fell to Oliver to approach the master for more food. And even the bowl of soup is given to them, that is quite sufficient for them. They can't demand any more. So on that day, Oliver decided that he is going to demand a more soup from the master. So what happened now after that? The boy stood in a queue. A prayer was said, and no sooner was the gruel served than it disappeared. So that person is going to, in the picture you can see that person is giving them a soup, and after having that one scoop of soup, they are not even can demand a more soup from that person, and they are very hungry. Oliver was so hungry that it took only one nudge from his friend to stand up and say, "So, please, sir, I want some more." What? The master shouted and gave Oliver a blow on his head. Nudge means to poke, blow means to hit someone. So, what happened? On that day, Oliver dared to say to that person, "I want a more food," and he was hit badly by that person for demanding more food. Everyone was horrified that Oliver had asked for more food. He was put in a solitary cell where he remained for a week. He was allowed out every morning to pick oakum, and Mr. Humble gave him a merciless caning every day. Horrified means shocked. Solitary cell means lonely unit. So what happened after that? When the day Oliver demanded a fruit from the Mr. Bumble, he was kept in a lonely room, and it was a punishment for him for demanding more soup. So he was allowed only in the morning to come out to pick oak arms. Mr. Sobery, the undertaker, stepped to take Oliver. Oliver showed no emotion. He was told to leave the orphanage that very night, so he took his few belongings in a small parcel, and with tears running down his cheeks, he went out into an unknown future. So Mr. Sobery, he just go to the Oliver, and he just gave an idea to Oliver that you must flee away from the situation, you must run away from that situation. So Oliver decided to run away from that solitary cell, but he don't know where he is going to live and where he is going to have his next food. So in a hurry, he just left the place, he just left that orphanage for unexpected future. He found himself in Mrs. Sobery's house. His wife was short, thin, and unpleasant looking. She pushed Oliver down the stairs into a dark and damp stone cell where a dirty looking girl was sitting. Again, he was being punished because Mr. Sobery's wife, she is not a good lady. So she just pushed Oliver to the downstairs with a girl who is not who is also dirty and who is a very ugly girl. She just gave a push to Oliver to with her. "Charlotte," said Mrs. Sobery heartlessly, "our dog Tramp hasn't come back since morning, so now he has to do without his meal. Go give his food to this boy." So now what is Charlotte said? Charlotte is the name of that girl, and Mrs. Sobery said heartlessly to that girl, "Now our dog, he is away from our house for a day and give his food to Oliver. Basically, he said that Oliver is going to eat that dog's food. Oliver ate the dog's meat hungrily, and then Mrs. Sawbury led him to a bed among the coffins. So Oliver hungrily means kobold. Coffin means where dead bodies kept. So what happened? Mrs. Sawbury, she gave a place to Oliver to sleep in the coffin. So he just laid his bed over there, and there he is going to have his sleep. And you can imagine it is very difficult for a person to sleep. Like in the picture you can see, a shiver ran down his spine as he looked around in fear. He wondered if there were any ghosts. The place had an eerie feeling. Eerie feelings mean that strange feelings which has no words to express. He could not sleep and he remained restless all night. Quite obvious, if you are going to spend your life in coffins, with the coffin with the dead bodies, and it would be very difficult that you would get a sleep. So same happened with Oliver. He can't have a wink of sleep that night. A loud sound of kicking on the door disturbed Oliver. A fat boy named Mr. Noah Claypole stood at the door. He kicked Oliver and teased and taunted him. Taunted him means made fun of something. So now what happened? At the door, that Oliver is getting a loud sound of the boy, that the name of the boy is No. And No is also not a good boy. So he just taunted Oliver. He just teased Oliver. So it becomes again very difficult for Oliver to stay there. He pulled his hair and twisted his ears. Twist means pulled. So he just pulled his hair. He just twisted his ear very badly. Oliver remained quiet, and then No said, "Oh, about your mother. She is dead. Don't say anything about her." So now No is going to have a taunt on Oliver about his dead mother. And Oliver requested him, "Don't say anything about my mother. She is dead. She is no more now." Oliver said, "Did she die of poorhouse?" No said hard-heartedly. And now Oliver, that Nose asked a question to Oliver, that your mother died because of poorness, because of poverty. The nurse told me that she died of a broken heart. And No said to Oliver that I know about your mother. She died broken heartedly. She was not happy because with her life, said Oliver sadly as the tears rolled down his cheek. A real bad woman. She should have been hanged. So he said that your mother, she was a very bad woman and she must be given a death penalty. Oliver reached immediately in fury. He overthrew the table and chair and caught No by the throat and shook him up. Reacted means to give action. Fury means in anger. Overthrew means turned over. So what happened? Now the Oliver, he is very angry with No. He just have a fight with him and he threw a table and chair on him, and he just picked him from the throat and he just pulled him up because in anger, because No said bad words to Oliver's mother. After this incident, Oliver decided to run away, and he did. So what incident means? After that happening, Oliver decided to run away from all these situations, to run away from the orphanage, to run away from Mrs. Sawbury house. He wants to give his life a new chance. He told only little Dick, who was all ill and dying. So he just said this sentence to his friend old Dick, who is also ill and at the verge of dying. He just told him to that I'm going to run away from the situation. I'm going to live my life on my own. Dick said, "Go away. Goodbye. God bless you." This was the only thing that Oliver had received. So his friend said that goodbye, God bless you, and this is the only blessing that Oliver has got, because everyone in the house, in the orphanage, and even Noah, they all cursed Oliver. He is not having a secure childhood like you people. This was the only blessing. He quietly left Mr. Sobry's place for unknown future. So he left that Mr. Sobry's house for his unknown future. In the picture, you can see that he just left that house and he is going to decide to have his future on his own hand. He don't know where he is going to. This 10-kilometer indication shows that the London is 10 kilometers away from that city. So he decided to move to the London and going to make his own life. So this is all about the chapter. This is all about the situation of an Oliver. I hope you understood the chapter. Now in today's online class, your teacher is going to discuss the question answers of this chapter. Till the time, stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.